right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thanks for being here. It's a red letter day. We have an excellent. I'm very excited. Great guest on. Ramsey Dewey is here. Give it up for him, sir. Thank you for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. How's your day going so far? It's early. It's like almost afternoon for you.
Yeah, almost afternoon. So far, so good. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. I just finished doing an online trivia show, and so I've been kind of on at my computer station for a while now. But so I'm already warmed up and kind of ready to go. So we'll jump right into it. We're so for those of us who are this is the first one of these podcasts in this kind of format. So to give the audience an idea, I'm just talking to some YouTubers that I personally enjoy. I really enjoy Ramsey's channel. You want to give us just a brief, kind of rundown of what your channel is about, Ramsey, real fast?
Sure. Well, it's called the Ramsey Dewey channel. It's essentially about me, about my life. I'm a mixed martial arts coach. I live in Shanghai, China. I coach the sport of MMA. That's my main thing. And so I answer a lot of people's questions about training, about life, etc. I make technique videos. And every once in a while, I make videos about whatever the heck I want to. For fun. Because I can. Why not?
Absolutely. I'm all for that. I love the ones that have nothing to do with anything. That's just we're having a good time here. We do this because we enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
So, right off the bat, I got a few questions prepared.
Sure.
To get to know you a little bit. So, this is a question I ask a lot of people when I first meet them, just to kind of sound for who they are. So, important question. This is a big one. Who is your personal favorite? Who do you identify with? Ninja Turtle.
Oh, man. If you asked me that question when I was a kid, I would have said Donatello, because he was the nerdy one who had the less aggressive weapon, if you will, the bow staff. And it just seemed I was a skinny little wimp who got beat up by the other kids at school, and that just seemed like me at the time. But at the same time, the thing with the Ninja Turtles is that I think it resonated so much with the kids who got picked on at school because they didn't have a tight-knit friend group like the Ninja Turtles had. They didn't have fighting skills like the Ninja Turtles had, and they didn't have a mentor like Splinter like the Ninja Turtles had, and they wanted all of those things. I wanted all that stuff as a kid. So again, that's part of the reason it resonated so deeply, because that's something we wanted. Anyway, guess I'm still going with Donatello.
All right, cool. Yeah. You prefaced it with as a kid, so I wasn't sure if you were going to switch it up there as an adult.
Ooh, as an adult, I think my opinion is largely swayed by the Ninja Turtles' abilities in the most recent Ninja Turtles video game. I don't know if you played that one,
of
Shredder's
course.
Revenge.
Shredder's Revenge, absolutely, man. Yeah.
It's a great game, man.
If you ever want to jump on together, we can totally play together.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. That could happen, man. That could happen.
Okay. So based on their abilities, who is it then?
My favorite turtle to play as in the game is probably Leonardo. He's balanced. He's got the best aerial movements, I think.
Yeah.
He just seems to work the best.
Yeah. I have to fully agree with you on that one. I say across all the games probably, because Leo's, he's like the Ryu, or he's like you said, the balanced character usually. Yeah. And I think you usually get the best play experience, with the character like that. But follow-up question. So if you are Donatello, who is then the person, the turtle that works best with you? Like who's your best friend turtle? Who you're most compatible with?
Oh boy, man. That's a good question. I love it.
No, take your time. Take your time. There's no rush. We're not in a hurry. We're just hanging out.
I'm gonna have to go with my gut and say Raphael.
Okay.
After all, After all, he's kind of the antithesis of Donatello in so many ways. Short-range weapon. He's the opposite of a nerd. He's the party dude. He's the hothead of the bunch. Depending on which Ninja Turtles mythos we're going with, whether we're going with the original comics or the 1980s TV show or the more recent iterations.
Yeah.
In every single one, he's basically the antithesis of Donatello, and I think as such he complements Donatello's personality the most.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. It's funny you should say that because you're actually dead on the money as far as like so I'm like kind of a Turtles nerd as well. So he didn't get from the question. So Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, they apparently those two characters are the ones that represent them. Like one of them being the shy person, and the other person being the more aggressive, outrageous person. So like. Yeah, you're exactly right. That was exactly how they were designed as being two parts of like because they were best friends to start. So
interesting. I didn't know that. I watched a documentary about those two guys yesterday on YouTube. I don't remember what it was called.
I did too. It wasn't
interesting story.
Yeah, was it? It might have been the same one. I thought they mentioned that at the end of it. We might not have been the same one, but I feel like it probably was since we watched it both yesterday.
Maybe it was trending on the YouTube homepage, so maybe.
Yeah, the waves of YouTube carry us in the same direction.
Yeah.
So okay, so we're talking like nerd stuff. So just real fast, I'm a Leonardo, and I feel like I work best with Michelangelo's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But so nerd stuff though, I'll throw the ball in your court. If other than martial arts, if you are a nerd about like another thing, are you a nerd about anything else? And if so, what's your nerdiest other, non-martial arts kind of thing?
Oh man, I'm a nerd about a lot of things. Martial arts, obviously, but non-martial arts. Well, I've been deeply into a lot of things that I guess you could call nerd culture, which in the last couple of decades have really become mainstream, like comic books, for example. I collected comic books back in the day, back when I lived in the U.S. You can't really get American comics in China.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to acquire them, so I stopped collecting comics 15 years ago when I moved to Shanghai.
Okay.
But yeah, that was something I was really deeply into.
What were your crown jewels? Because I collect comics also. So what were your crown jewels of your collection?
There are a lot of comics that
They don't have to be expensive. They could be ones that you cared about a lot personally. It doesn't either way. Ones your favorite ones.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a few which are a little bit rare and so on, but they're not really the ones that I enjoy. One of my favorites, I don't remember the issue number, an old issue of Action Comics, an old Superman. I love it because it's just so campy and hilarious. Superman is affected by red kryptonite.
Yes.
And so he becomes evil. And evil Superman, his evil plan, he flies over to the United Nations building, takes all the flags of the world, tears them into shreds, takes the flagpoles, and takes the shreds of the flags and knits with his super knitting power, a power we didn't know Superman had until this point in time, knits a giant Superman flag and declares himself dictator of the world. It's awesome.
That's amazing.
I think the market value of this particular comic is probably a couple of pennies, but oh man, it's priceless to me.
Well, I mean, if you know anything about comic books, just you saying that right now made the value go up. Someone who's watching this is gonna go out there. Is gonna be like, well, I'm on eBay right now looking up which one is the one where Superman sews the United Nations flags.
Oh man, it's amazing. One of the great things about Superman is that he started out with a pretty limited power set. He was strong. He could leap tall buildings in a single bound. He couldn't fly. He could just jump really well.
Yep.
And he was really fast.
Yeah.
And then just gradually, as the story required it, they added an extra power. Like, oh, he can see through walls. He can fly now. And now he can knit really fast and really big.
Like, because at first glance you're like, all right, yeah, whatever. But like then you have to think about it. It's like, okay, so Superman, like even if he has super speed, right? Like knitting is its own, like very very particular set of movements. if we
Yes,
as
that's
martial
an oddly
artists,
specific skill set.
yeah. So just, I mean, I love stuff like that. That's amazing. Oh, oh man, yeah. So are there any other like favorite comics like really influenced you, or like you can off the top think of?
It's probably going to sound like Superman's my favorite, even though it wasn't really my favorite title. But my favorite comic book of all time is an Action Comics book. Hold on, let me see if I can look up the exact number. The title of it is The Choice. I don't know if you've read this one. It's a really simple comic. It shows kind of a monologue happening in Superman's head. It's in this particular issue. It's after Superman's father dies, and so he's reflecting on his life, and it shows him. Yes, Jonathan Kent, not Jor-El. So, we see in the panels he's going around fighting some supervillains, and he defeats the supervillains. It's like 3 different guys he's fighting, and we see what's happening in his head, and he's describing essentially the dynamic range of human expression, and how people are redeemable. Like he essentially says that he has to believe that everybody is redeemable. And so he goes out and he fights these villains and he beats them, but then afterwards he doesn't just throw them in jail. He gives them a choice. He says, look, I know you can be better. He's saying this to these evil supervillains. I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself, to be one of the good guys. And we see one of the characters is like, nah, no, forget that. I will never do that. And another one's like, yeah, whatever. But then the third one, we just see a panel of the guy shaking Superman's hand. And then eventually that guy, he becomes part of the Justice League at one point around, when was it? Early 2000s, I think it was. Anyway, it's just a great feel-good comic. I read it and it actually brought a tear to my eye as I read it. It was like, wow, I did not expect to cry reading a Superman comic.
Yeah, sure.
It's just a powerful, simple visual message about the worth of a human soul.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many comic books and so many great ones too, where you see the good guy punch the bad guy and that's it. And then he goes to jail or he gets thrown into the sun. And then we see something else with Superman. We see something that, the reason he is a great character is because we see his heart.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. So I love that comic. Action Comics, The Choice. I'm going to see if I can look that up for anyone who wants to read that one, because it is a great issue.
Yeah. Yeah. I love when they can isolate a moment like that.
Number 783. Action Comics number 783.
Nice.
There we go.
I'll check it out too. Now I'll have to seek that one out. And hopefully the price doesn't go up too far. We're really messing up the market here with this podcast.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, there are a lot of comics I liked. I used to collect Iron Man. I had like every Iron Man issue from Tales of Suspense back in the day.
Wow, nice.
And I just kept collecting it until one day when Jorge Lucas took over the title, and it changed radically. The story changed so radically to the point where I wasn't having fun with it anymore.
Was that when?
And this is a weird moment. Man, this was probably around 2004, maybe.
Okay, was that like when they made him an alcoholic and stuff?
No. This was like way after that.
Okay.
So they did a really great run of Iron Man. I'm forgetting the exact date, but like early 2000s, and he's fighting like this alien entity that's like a biomechanical thing, and it's a really cool story. I don't remember a lot of the specifics, but then they just dropped that storyline immediately, hired a new writer, new artists, and turned Iron Man into a politician. And it just got really dry and boring and stuffy. And I was like, I love Iron Man. I own every issue and I'm not having fun with this anymore. Should I just keep buying it for the continuity of my collection? And I was like, why?
Yeah.
If I'm not enjoying it at this point, why? What for?
Yeah.
So that was a weird moment for me as a comic collector, because I had this realization, like, if I'm not enjoying what I'm putting money into here, what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. And take up space, a lot of space.
Yeah. But a lot of space. Yeah. So I love comics that I enjoy, really. Like a few that I really liked. Humberto Ramos did a couple that I really loved, like the Crimson series and the Out There series. I loved those. Those were
okay.
Just fairly short sci-fi sort of adventure stories that had a limited run, and yeah, really, really fun to read. I like the art style, but like the writing.
Nice. I know Ramos. I haven't heard of those two though.
Yeah, he started writing. He started illustrating some Spider-Man comics after his run on Out There, but those are lesser known stories, lesser known comics. But man, those were so good. If you can find them in like a graphic novel collected format,
yeah, very,
very fun read.
Okay, well, you're giving me a lot of great recommendations here. I'm really enjoying this. Yeah. So, speaking of recommendations, like as far as YouTube goes, I don't know how much YouTube you end up like watching yourself. I mean, I watch like a decent amount, but
probably too much.
Yeah, same. I understand. What either martial arts or non-martial arts channels, like what have you been into like recently? Who have you been watching?
Oh man, I like to laugh. I like to laugh. So comedy is one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube. Like I enjoy certain, excuse me, I enjoy certain martial arts content on YouTube, but I find I have to be a snob about it, because whatever we consume, we tend to repeat.
Yeah.
So when I'm not working and I'm watching YouTube, I like to watch funny stuff.
Okay.
So Joel Haver, he's a dude I enjoy. Shout out to Joel Haver, man. He reminds me a lot of like the early days of YouTube, when there was just so much sketch comedy on YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say so much, because there wasn't a whole lot of content on YouTube back in the day. It's just that was a lot of what the content on YouTube was, just short sketch comedy, low budget indie film sort of stuff. And it was a great era. I mean, the video quality sucked, but it was a great era for creativity. So Joel reminds me so much of that. And it's great to see that currently on YouTube.
Absolutely. I love his channel. So for my live trivia show, I always play the Grinch song that they did.
Yeah. That'll never not be funny, man.
Oh, amazing.
And I love the fact that his channel's blowing up, man, because usually you see a channel that makes content like that and it tends to go under the radar. So the fact that people appreciate it just makes me happy.
Oh, same. And well, also, I mean, not on the radar, SNL, did you see how they like may or may not have taken that the toilet paper bear thing from, like, it's,
oh yeah,
that was crazy. It's like exactly the same thing. It's like it's pretty close. I understand that the jokes maybe like they could have been independently conceived, but like it's pretty close.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. Either way, shout out to Joel. That's a great call. I love his channel too. I feel he'd probably be a lot of fun to talk to, actually.
Yeah.
So, what
outside of comedy, I listen to a lot of podcasts on YouTube, because I don't know, something about the spoken word really resonates with me. So, often just like having a voice saying something interesting in the background is it's something that I don't know, it's more interesting to me than all of this stuff that people tend to say keeps people's attention on YouTube, like throwing a bunch of quick jump cuts and whatever else they say is supposed to work the algorithm, but it doesn't really work for me. Like long form podcasts, I love that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No, same. And actually, I'd like to just to shout you out for one of the things I really I really like about especially when you're doing like Q&A stuff, is not cutting. Like whenever you're as you were saying, like having someone talking to you in like an uncut form, I feel like it helps you to kind of understand the way that they think. When you can see even how they think and present at the same time. So yeah, I appreciate how, a lot of your long form things are not, there's no cuts, which is hard to do. Honestly, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. That's by choice. That's a very deliberate choice I made. So the reason that I started my YouTube channel 17 years ago was to improve my speaking ability. It was just to become a better public speaker, basically. That was my original intention. So I gave myself a few simple rules when making a talking head video, if you will.
Sure.
And rule number one was do it all in one take. Because in real life, my goal was to be a good conversationalist, to be better at talking to people, which is a skill I felt I severely lacked back then. And you can't edit a live conversation. You can't take a jump cut in a live conversation. If there's an awkward pause in a live conversation, you have to know how to deal with that. And so it didn't make sense to me to try to filter out all of the non-friendly, that's the wrong word, all the non-video friendly stuff out of the video,
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be able to speak off the cuff from the heart and make it mean something. So that was the one simple rule I gave myself.
Nice.
So I always stick to that in the Q&As.
Yeah. No. Sorry. I think it works really well. I didn't mean to interrupt you there at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and in fact, so I think that doing podcasts, especially and listening to them, people don't realize that when you're doing a podcast, like you can kind of tell sometimes when people haven't done them before, because they'll kind of interrupt or try to talk over people. And I feel like you said, it's good practice for doing a podcast. It's good practice for having a conversation where you're actually, like they say in Pulp Fiction, like, are you waiting to talk or are you listening, or something like that. So yeah, I think that's a great way to, if you want to practice speaking, it's a good way to do it. And again, hats off to you for those one take performances. Very nice. As a performer, my hat off to you, sir.
Well, thanks, man.
So as far as YouTubing goes, is there anything that, like, this has to have been some things that being the result of you being a YouTuber, has the internet been leaking into your like everyday life when it's not expected, like in a time where you didn't expect it, where
Ooh. Oh, that's an interesting question. I live in China and YouTube is blocked in China, and so it usually doesn't leak into my everyday life. Every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like I went to the Shanghai Comic-Con a couple of years ago, and I go to the bathroom, and this dude passes me in the bathroom, and he's like, "You're that guy from the internet." Like, I am a guy on the internet, but he's like, "Yeah, I watched your channel on YouTube." And he starts fanboying over me. I'd never experienced that in my life before. I was like, well, this is different. And he shakes my hand and walks off, and I'm like, I usually don't shake people's hand in the bathroom, but okay. But this happens very rarely. Recently, I went to Australia for this thing called the Ultimate Self-Defense Championship, which was interesting. And after all the self-defense championship events, on the last day we did a seminar, and there were a few hundred people there from Sydney and other parts of Australia, and actually a few people flew in from other parts of the world just to attend the seminar.
Yeah.
And afterwards we had this Q&A, and I'm standing in front of this group of hundreds of people who watch my channel and who love my content. and they start asking me questions, and I see this look in their eyes, like what I'm saying is valuable to them, and there's like this connection there, and I had never experienced anything like this. I was like, holy crap, wow. It's one thing to see a number on a screen like you've got almost 250,000 subscribers, and it's like, okay, that's a big number on a screen, I guess. And then you look at other people who have bigger numbers, like this guy has 1 million, why not me? But those numbers don't really mean anything until you look those people in the eye.
Right.
And 200 people doesn't really sound like a lot until you see them all in a room together. And then you're like, wow, 200 people is a lot of people. So if you get like 200 views on a video, you might think, oh, this video is not performing well. You get all those people in a room and they're interested in what you have to say, and they hang on your every word, and they love you. It's overwhelming, man. And so again, this is the first time in my life I'd experienced this. And I remember Icy Mike and Sensei Seth were there, and they're looking over at me with kind of this look like, and then Icy Mike says, this is the first time he's had this, man. Because Mike's done seminars and Seth has done seminars, and
right.
YouTube fans surrounding it before. And so, this was old news for them. But in China, I don't get this. I've never had that experience. I've never met a multitude of fans before, and it was mind-boggling. Actually, it brought tears to my eyes, man. I remember that they said, like, how do you feel being in Australia? And I said, I feel like I am among friends. And as I'm saying this, I'm just tearing up.
Yeah.
And it was a powerful experience. So, I actually forgot the question you asked that led to that.
Oh, it was no. You answered it beautifully. I asked if the YouTube has bled over into your actual real life, and what's, and that is, yeah. It being like such a, because I was thinking that, like, those other guys, they definitely have had that happen before, but like you being kind of like, more isolated in China, and I wasn't sure what the YouTube situation in China was. So, that had to have been really weird for you, where you're like, oh, I didn't realize all these people were like real people.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. Like, my kids, if you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They'll say, I want to be a YouTuber. And then I'll say, well, we don't know what the state of the internet is going to be in 10 years when you guys actually grow up. YouTube might be what it is today. It might be something else. Who knows? So, but that's what they say. They're kind of obsessed with the idea of fame on YouTube, which concerns me a little.
Sure.
But I remember a while back we moved to a new apartment, and my wife took my silver play button, my silver YouTube play button, the award they give you when you get 100,000 subscribers, and she put it in our kitchen, just on display in this little corner. And my kids, apparently this is the first time they'd seen it, because before it was in my office and they didn't go in there. They thought it was boring or whatever. But my kids look at it for the first time and they're like, wait a minute, Daddy, are you famous?
Are you Batman?
You have a silver play button? What? Their minds were just blown. Like, you're a real YouTuber. I had no idea. I thought you were just goofing around with your camera. And suddenly, like, I saw this awe and respect in their eyes I'd never seen before. And I was like, what the heck, man? It almost made me mad. Like, I'm your father. You're supposed to respect me no matter what. But the fact that they look up to me now like, he's a real YouTuber because of that silver play button. It's, man, it almost makes me angry.
Well,
how YouTube has affected the youth.
I as you were saying that, I was thinking back to, because how you considering yourself a YouTuber. It's like, I think it was during one of the talking about the ultimate self-defense thing. You said that everybody else had like written down like for their profession, YouTuber, and you're like, that's not what, because I wouldn't write that down either. I'd say like maybe entertainer and like probably martial artist and like as far as things that I do. But I like specifically YouTuber. I didn't like. I was. like I don't think I was surprised that you said that, but I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I see that and I respect that because I would probably say the same thing. Like, not that there's anything wrong with being like a YouTuber, but I think that like
Yeah,
doing what we do on
but
YouTube.
it honestly surprised me. It honestly surprised me. So yeah, none of us compared notes when filling in the questionnaire about what our occupation was, but I wrote down MMA coach because that's my thing. That's what I do. I'm an MMA coach, and I also have a YouTube channel where I talk mostly about being an MMA coach and my experiences and so on. But yeah, it was shocking to me to learn how other people identify.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I watched the whole Ultimate Self Defense Challenge. I might have missed one here or there, but it was a lot of fun to watch. Man, I was so jealous of all the stuff you guys got. I know that you like your experience was like not great maybe the whole time, but like I just as a viewer I was like that looks like so much fun.
Yeah, parts of it were great. Like the zombie apocalypse thing. If it weren't for that dude falling on my head and snapping my knee, man, that
Dude,
would
I'm
have
sorry
been
about that,
amazing.
man.
Oh man, that sucked. It still sucks. Like this happened back in February, and oh man, I've been working on rehab since back then. But anyway, but that was injury aside. That was incredibly fun. Like when when I got out in that game, I felt sad because I was like, I'm having so much fun with this game. I want to see the rest of it. I want to experience the rest of it. And it's like, nope, no continues, no extra lives. You're out. You're out, man.
You're out of credits, man. Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I think I left a comment on because I saw that Rokas was trying to fund like season 2 and get it done, and one of the suggestions I said was like he should have like part of the Kickstarter be like one of the tiers, the upper tier be like one of like 1 or 2 or 3 spots on the show. Like there's like a raffle where these whoever gets that tier, then they get put in the raffle, and then like he picks like 1 or 2 like viewers or something to like also be one of the, and just have it like pay for itself. It's like, oh, if you spend this much money, it'll just pay for itself. I thought that was a cool idea, but
Yeah, he actually did a couple of perks similar to that in the previous one. So there were a couple of guys they donated a bunch of money to the cause, and so they actually flew out to Australia
oh
and hung out with us every day. And one of them, what was his name? Adam, fun guy. He got to participate as one of the bad guys in a couple of the events. Actually, I think it was him that I kneed in the face a couple of times on the bus. Like he's the smaller guy, so he managed to wriggle through the crowd
yeah.
because there was a lot of congestion at the front of the bus, so nobody could get through. I was in the back, and Adam squirmed through, and I'm like, oh, there's a guy trying to attack me, so I kneed him in the face. And afterwards, we had a little conversation. He was like, I never expected to get kneed in the face by Ramsey Dewey. Whoa. It's like, wow, I never expected somebody to be happy about that, but here we are.
That's awesome. Like I don't have that many subscribers on YouTube, but like I do teach at a local gym, and so we do the videos in the gym, and so like I posted on the gym like there's like a private adults Facebook page just for everybody to kind of keep in touch and stuff, and so like I'll post the videos in there, and then like it's not just our school. There's several schools that are all owned by it's all the same gym, and so. I know that whenever somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, I watched you and Mike on YouTube," I know that this person is about to try to murder me. Yeah, open mat, man. I've learned quickly that and this is I'm not complaining. It's great practice. It's amazing. I get great training every open mat I go to. A couple people come up to me and be like, "We watch you on the channel, man. You want to roll?" I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I just have to take a deep breath and be like, all right, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna have to absorb a lot of energy because I think this person's gonna they're here to test. They're here to test out what I got.
Yeah, apparently this happens to Icy Mike a lot. We had a conversation about this with the group. Like, hey, does anybody try to dojo storm you because they see you on YouTube? I'm like, no, not really, because YouTube's blocked in China, but. apparently this happens to Mike a lot. People have come to his gym and because he's got a bit of an abrasive personality on the internet, and a lot of people don't like that. They're like, I'm going to show this little guy what's up. So,
oh man, yeah, I can now that you say that, I can totally see people doing that to him, and like, I mean, and it, like that just has to suck because like, I mean. Yeah, him watching him standing next to like you, and I feel like there were only like two kind of like height levels, and during the whole Ultimate Self Defense, it was like you guys. Oh, yeah. There's tall guys and short guys, and that was it. Like it didn't seem like there was anybody who was like, oh, I'm like 5'11".
There were no medium-sized guys, man. It was either big or small.
Yeah, I felt bad for the small guys. I was like, this is not fair. I mean,
oh yeah, no, absolutely not. No weight classes.
Yeah,
because on the streets there are no weight classes.
Oh man, so I imagine you probably don't have to field as many like dumb people who watch YouTube videos and like watch questionable technique videos like coming up to you and being like, what do you think about the on the streets things, like it's probably mostly YouTube for you, like comment sections. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very very little of that in real life.
Okay. Yeah, because that gets to be like a little bit just
except at church. Church is like the only place where people walk up to me and they're like, hey, I saw your YouTube channel and I have a question for you about throughout some self-defense or fitness related thing. And anyway, it's like the one time in my life it happens. The part of my life where I don't really expect it to happen, where maybe it shouldn't even happen at all, but that's where I get the YouTube interactions at church, man.
Well, people they're relaxed and they feel comfortable with you, so they're probably they're just trying to pick your brain in a safe environment.
Like, after meetings, people walk up to me like, "So yeah, I have a few friends who are doctors, and they sometimes tell me like, yeah, people always come up to me asking for free medical advice. I'm like, people come up to me asking for like free martial arts advice. We're the same, not really, but anyway.
I mean, you're not the same, but you're pretty much the exact. I'd say maybe in some ways the opposites. You're kind of
okay. We're polar opposites.
Yeah, you're feeding into each.
Put people back together. I take them apart.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're feeding into each other's professions. It's perfect. It's like the dentist who invented cotton candy.
Wait, was that a dentist?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Whoa, that was a sneaky move right there.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly. That's if you look throughout history, there's all kinds of things like that happening. I'm trying to think. What I wrote like several little notes. Just things I wanted to like run by you.
Sure.
But let's see here. So like, what's do you teach at one gym, several gyms?
Right now, I'm teaching at 3 different gyms. So there's Animal MMA here in Shanghai. It's in the Putuo district. For anybody watching from Shanghai who knows where that is, the Extreme Fight Lab and the Mordor Fight Club. Yeah, Mordor, like the bad guys from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's not why it was named Mordor. Mordor has some sort of meaning in a Chinese dialect, which they explained to me, and it kind of went over my head. But it's spelled exactly like the bad guys from Lord of the Rings, so I'm running with it, man.
Perfect. There is no light in the dark.
Yeah, so we're out there training the forces of evil, the fighting Urukai at the Mordor Fight Club. It's awesome.
Nice. I think maybe like a while back, maybe you said something in one of the videos about Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh, Lord of the Rings nerd. Okay, cool. I feel like that we would be friends in that way. Did you watch Rings of Power?
Oh, man, I haven't. My most recent experience with Lord of the Rings, I'm reading Lord of the Rings to my daughters as bedtime stories. We've been doing that for the last year. We're up to about chapter 7 of Return of the King. Just finished chapter 6. Pelennor feels that epic battle when the riders of Rohan go to the aid of Gondor, and it's such. I love the book so much more than the movies. The
Oh,
movies
yeah.
are great, and I love the movies, but the books are. There's just so much more to love in them, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of great characters, which they're neat characters in the movie, but in the books they're just fleshed out so much more, and you see just so many acts of heroism that are so inspiring in the books that there's just not time for in the movies. Like take Eomer, for example. In the movie, who plays him? Carl Urban, is that it?
Carl Urban, yeah.
Yeah. And he's there. He's there in the movie. He has some lines. He's okay. Nothing wrong with him. But in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, chapter 6 of that book, it's you see the character and the quality of this man in a way that the movie doesn't have time for. Where Theoden the king, he is killed unceremoniously, ungloriously killed as his horse falls on top of him while fighting the Witch King. And yeah, what a way to die too, man. Like the bad guy doesn't even stab him. He falls off his horse. The horse falls on top of him, dead. Oh, man. And Eomer takes up the mantle of the king mid-battle, a losing battle, as far as he knows. He doesn't know the riders of Rohan are coming in here. I'm nerding out big time for anybody who has not familiarized themselves with the source material, but I'm going to finish this thought, man.
No, keep going.
They understand they're in a losing battle. They're probably going to die. Everything that they do from this point on is going to be futile. And what does he do? He picks up the mantle of the king and he calls out to his troops. He sings in the loudest voice possible to, what is the line? To ruin, to, I don't remember the line, but it's glorious. It's glorious. And as I'm reading it out loud to my daughter this night, it brings a tear to my eye, man. When you can just start crying reading a text off of a page, you know it's well written. And he sings this song inspiring his men as they're charging into battle. And they do it anyway. This is something that's a little bit missing from the movie. The state of desperation. I'm going to nerd out about one other scene in the movie that's just subtly but importantly different in the book. Okay, so Eowyn in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, she's there. She's disguised as a male soldier. She confronts the Witch King. The Witch King in the movie says, "No man can defeat me." She takes off her helmet and her dramatic reveal, "I am no man." Stab. The Witch King dies. The end. And it's this fun little girl power moment. In the book, the same beats happen, but they happen just a little bit differently. The book emphasizes the fact that Eowyn understands she is going to die. She has no chance against the Witch King. And this is portrayed as an extreme act of self-sacrifice. Her only goal at this moment is to stop the Witch King's fell beast from devouring King Theoden. Because she wants to save the dignity of this man that she reveres as her father figure, right?
Yeah.
And she understands she is going to die in the process. And in the movie, it's played off like, I can defeat you because I'm a woman, because I've got the magic woman power or whatever. And it's like, it's kind of cheesy. It's kind of cheesy. In the book, she doesn't know. And it just happens to work out in her favor, but she has no idea. She understands she's going to her death. And so we see the scene of extreme heroism that is just utterly lacking in the movie. And I love it so much in the book. And in the movie, it's like, just a couple of lines different could have made this such a powerful scene.
Yeah.
Instead of one that people were like, it's kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
In an otherwise great film.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that one. I think that thinking about it in the scope of like the movie itself, like, and I'm not defending her, because I agree with you. Like in the book, it's way better. Like it's so, and there's so much more detail about why, the Witch King is made vulnerable because of the stabbing from the particular blade made that came from the Barrow Downs, like in the first book.
Way back in the first book, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that maybe in the movie, because like I think it might have been a similar reason why they couldn't do the full Shire ending, where it's like you can only tug on people's heartstrings like so many times per movie. It's like maybe it just fell in between too much harder. I can't remember exactly in the movie what's happening, because you've got like all these moments like boom, boom, boom right in a row. I don't know. That's just my thought. It's in the book. It's easier to digest because you can be like, take it at your own pace, kind of.
Yeah.
But
sure, yeah. It gives us the inner monologue. It gives us a bit of stream of consciousness of all the characters in the books that obviously we can't get in the movie. But just like a simple throwaway line can change so much in a movie. It can fix plot holes. It can do so much for character development. There are just a few moments I just wish they would have thought it through just a little bit more before they put it to film.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with that. Especially the ending of the movies, where the plan of like, let's just go create a distraction and maybe it'll distract them from. It's like that's okay. That's sort of kind of what happened, but that's a vast oversimplification of like why we're all doing this stuff. It's like Sauron thinks that. Like it's a whole like trickery. That's like Sauron thinks the ring is over here, and he thinks probably Aragorn has it because like it's like not just like we're just gonna go like knock on the door and hopefully he'll turn the other way while you guys go drop the ring in the fire like that.
Oh yeah, and in the movie it's quite literally presented visually with the Eye of Sauron going. Let's look over here.
Yeah. Oh, he's not there. Yeah, he's looking over there. Yeah, we got like. Yeah, that little bits like that where it's like I think that maybe it's just for the purposes of the audience. I get it, like not everyone's gonna nerd out as hard as we are right now, but you're right. Some of that stuff is just like, come on, you didn't have to do all that.
Yeah. At the same time, I think Hollywood needs to put a little more faith in the nerds sometimes, because I mean, how many people are there out there who have viewing parties of the extended editions of Lord of the Rings and they just love that stuff and eat it up, and if they made 3 additional hours of content they would pay for it? Man, I mean, there is a demand for that sort of thing. There is. How much of the demand? I don't know if it's enough to justify hundreds of millions of dollars put into additional feature films, but there is a certain demand for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think like the dollars probably have a lot to do with like what when things do and don't work. Like the Hobbit movies, obviously that was the money grab. Like Peter Jackson himself was like, "Hey everyone, I'm sorry about that. We didn't know what we were doing. They just like wanted more money," and I said okay because I didn't have a choice. So yeah, I think you're on track with that one too.
Yeah.
But you said something about a throwaway line in this. So you're in. You said it. I looked at your shirt. So like, So one thing that people always like point out, they're like, Obi-Wan Kenobi says like stormtroopers are known for their accuracy, but then like we hear that like we see that they can't hit anything, and so there is a line in Star Wars in A New Hope that like I think totally solves that whole argument. And kind of it implies that like the scariness of the stormtroopers is all fake anyway. But like as soon as they put the helmet on, Luke says, "I can't see a thing in this helmet." Like he says it. He says it right there. It's like that's why they can't hit anything, because you can't see in the helmet. The helmet's terrible. Like I feel like that's the whole like kind of unspoken little through line of Star Wars is like the Empire is so big that nothing works. It's the worst system. It's like it's the Republic. It's all nothing ever worked. It's a government. Like the Empire is just the government, and the government is very inefficient usually. Like big governments that's how it works. So anyway, that was a little.
I never really put those two lines together like that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Star Wars stuff that's like super duper like kind of right out in your face, but in subtle. But like, and then you think about it and you're like, oh, that's actually. Wow. Okay. Yeah. It was right in front of me this whole time. That's one of the reasons I love Star Wars so much. I think of Jiujitsu in Star Wars.
Jiu-Jitsu in Star Wars. How so?
Oh, I mean, I can certainly. So, okay, so check it out. So to me,
Okay.
jujitsu is like a philosophy. I just edited together the Hickson 2018 Tokyo seminar that he did, and I think a lot of people kind of brushed it off because he was like, it took a long time. There's a translator, and he like had to like talk and then wait and talk and wait. So it's like kind of hard to watch originally. So I cut it all together. But he says it's him explaining to a room full of judo people like what jujitsu actually is, and he explains it by like 4 principles, and like basically the philosophy I got out of it is that like jujitsu is just efficiency, and that's like full stop it, like efficiency and like advantage through mechanical motion. So if you do it right, it shouldn't cost you anything from yourself, right? Like if I'm moving perfectly with that theory, and I'm allowing my base and my connection and everything to kind of like carry me along, then I can. It's like jujitsu is like the trope, right? The lazy jujitsu guy. It's like the reason you can do that is because you're using like the way that all this force is moving you around. So you're like using the force. Now you can also like do grappling in like a kind of resistive way. Like a lot of wrestling has, like I think wrestlers have to do it. Like the idea is like, go through and overcome rather than try to go around. So like that, I call that using the dark side. Where if you're trying to muscle something or if your technique is imperfect, you can force it with like an attribute, like your flexibility or your muscle or your speed or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing it right and you're using the force, then none of that is necessary, and you can go a lot longer than if someone's using the dark side. It's literally eating them up from the inside. It's using their own energy against them. And so,
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. So if you, I try to always use the force. If you watch some of our roll videos, like we roll for like an hour because we're not trying to resist each other. It's like it's a light side roll, if you will. So yeah, that's kind of the general. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. This is it's it made me think of something when you get a guy who doesn't understand jujitsu, and they have and they roll with someone who does understand jujitsu, and even if the guy who doesn't do jujitsu is physically stronger, he will often say like, "Wow, you're so strong," because we can call this a lot of things. Some people call it mat strength. Tai Chi nerds call it Pungjin, which is structural strength.
Sure.
There are a lot of different words and terms for it in martial arts, but it's essentially efficiency of movement, right? Technique isn't a lack of strength or power. It's an efficient use of strength and power, an efficient use of body mechanics, and it feels magical. It feels overpowered when you do it the right way against someone who's doing it the wrong way, if you will.
Yeah.
So when you match force against structure is going to win, right? Unless that force is overwhelming to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's a fascinating analogy. The dark side of the force of jiu-jitsu, man. You can win fights that way. But as far as longevity in the sport, man, you need something else.
Yeah. You see, you can see who, like people who have gone through not just fighting arts, but I think other sports, who understand who is a force user and who is a dark side user, because the dark side users can't do anything once they're their bodies start falling apart, because this whole time they probably were using one of those attributes, like they're leaning on it like a crutch, right? They're like, and they just ground themselves into dust. But then you have other people where you're like, this person is 85 years old and they're still like able to, like not get tapped out by everybody. Elio Gracie.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I could transmit that thought to your brain, because I wanted to hear what your idea was. Because I'll talk to people at the gym and stuff and be like, and a lot of people actually now we do call it like using the dark side, and that's kind of fun to me. But yeah, I wanted to see what your thoughts were.
No, that's a fun analogy. I like that, man. The dark side of the force of jiu-jitsu, man. If Star Wars was better known here in China, I might use that as an instructional analogy, but most people over here don't know what that is.
Well, if somebody comes in and wearing any Star Wars stuff, feel free to, you can go ahead and use that for yourself. That's a free one. That's all yours. But let me see what I don't think I have any other. Oh, you know what? So is there anything else like that? Because I watched, I think, a couple of your like reviews of the Ultimate Self Defense thing. Is there anything else that that happened there that you would be interesting for us as viewers to know that you didn't get to?
Oh man, I think all of the coolest stuff for me anyway happened outside of the challenges.
Okay.
Like all we really saw on the videos that Rokas put out were the challenges themselves. Of course, that's the reason he funded the whole thing to put that up on YouTube. But the really fun stuff, the really interesting stuff happened outside of that. It was the interactions between, myself and Mike and Seth and Jeff and Rokas and Matt for the days he was there. I wish we would have had more time to just hang out, compare notes about martial arts, make YouTube videos together that had nothing to do with the challenges. Like the challenges, they were okay. It to me, it kind of felt like a necessary evil.
Right.
Like I'm not a self-defense guy, first of all. Like I'm very outspoken about the failings of the self-defense industry. And a lot of people get confused when I talk about that because they think I'm saying you shouldn't defend yourself if you're attacked. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the self-defense industry is problematic, or rather the fear-mongering industry is problematic.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of self-defense instruction turns into is fear-mongering.
Mm. So
they'll spell out some narratives which are, one, highly unlikely, and two, don't actually work that way in real life, and then essentially fabricate a solution to the fabricated problem to sell you.
Yep.
This happens so much. For example, you've probably seen my MMA fighters try bad women self-defense techniques videos. Maybe some of those people like those.
Yeah.
A comment I get a lot on those is, well, why don't you show us the right solution to these problems? The answer to that is, these problems are imaginary. A violent assault does not happen when a guy walks up on the street, grabs you by the wrist, and just stands there doing nothing. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I understand that perhaps if you're going to teach somebody hand fighting and escaping wrist grabs or whatever, maybe we'll start that way. But to sell it as if this is how a violent altercation will happen on the street. Somebody will grab your wrist and then stand there. Somebody will do the two-handed rape choke on you and then just stand there. Like, if it's hard to find videos of real assaults on YouTube now because the YouTube robots tend to filter that stuff out.
Yeah.
But if you see like CCTV footage of violent assaults, and I've seen quite a few of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. They're radically different scenarios than what people are preparing themselves for in most self-defense classes. It has nothing to do with it, man. It's nothing to do with it. So it's upsetting when people say, show us the right solution to these imaginary problems. It would be a disservice to tell them, well, if somebody grabs your wrist, just do this thing or that thing or what.
Yeah. Yeah.
The real solution is get out there and train if your concern is hand-to-hand combat. Become proficient at hand-to-hand combat if that is your real concern. But if your real concern is, let's say, a fear of mortality, I think this is something that affects almost everybody. We understand at some point we understand logically we're going to die, but then when somebody capitalizes on that fear and says, yeah, you're going to die if you don't listen to me and take my self-defense course, then this is a hard thought to finish, man. It's a hard thought to finish, but
No, keep going. Like, there's no hurry, please.
I think Miyamoto Musashi said this thing, and it's often taken out of context to sound badass, but what it really is a quote about understanding your own mortality. He said, everybody knows they're going to die. I'm paraphrasing the first part. Everybody understands they're going to die to some extent. And everybody will die. Peasants, noble women, priests, etc. Every class of society, they know they're going to die, but not really. But the code of the warrior is the acceptance of death. I'm misquoting that. The code of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. That's the exact quote. Because a warrior understands they are going to die. Not peacefully in their sleep when they're 100 years old, but they are going to die most likely on the battlefield in an ignominious way. And so a warrior must prepare themselves for that contingency. They must accept the inevitability of death. Now, I think that should hold true not just for warriors in ancient Japanese time, not just for martial artists, but everybody should understand you're going to die.
Yeah.
And probably not the way that you want to. Definitely not the way that you want to, man. And we need to make peace with that. We absolutely need to make peace with that. And once we do that, then we can start to truly live, I believe. Once we make peace with death, we can start to live. That is so essential.
The way of the samurai is found in death. Meditation on inevitable death should be performed daily. I believe that's the first bit of that same thing from the Hagakure from the Book of the Samurai. But yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you sit there and you just because I personally will think about what are all the most horrible ways I could personally die, and that's not being morbid, but it's if you run yourself through that all the time, it's okay, well, then if some of those things happen, I've already thought about it. Well, it's here we are. I think that doing live resistance training martial arts helps a lot. Where it's man, there's been times I'm sure in your fight career, there's been times where you're man, I'm sort of close to not death, but if this person made a mistake or I know that you got injured badly, so it's I think that when you have at least putting yourself in a position where it's oh yeah, if this person wanted to, I'm dead to rights. I'm entirely relying on their mercy. I think it helps you to kind of maybe helps you to get there. I don't know.
Yeah, man. It's when I started training in martial arts, I would say when I knew the least about it, learning fighting techniques filled me with a certain sense of personal empowerment. Oh, look, I can punch and kick really hard. I'm a dangerous man now.
Yeah.
And I told myself, oh, now that I understand violence, which I didn't, I respect violence, which I didn't. But I told myself these things. I don't think most people understand violence.
Yeah.
And I made a video about this on YouTube, and I think it was heavily misunderstood. It was a video mostly about my mother's experiences with post-traumatic stress syndrome growing up at the end of World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't so much because of the bomb raids over England. She's from England, and she experienced Nazi planes dropping bombs on her hometown and all this, which I'm sure was traumatic. And when she hears a siren of any type, it still freaks her out to this day,
right?
All these years later. But I think the real effects of violence that I talked about in that video were after the war. What happened afterward? Like really understanding violence is understanding the long-term ramifications of it.
Yeah.
So like one of my mother's big issues was with food, for example, because after World War II in England, there was post-war rationing where, food was rationed out to families. You got like a tiny little piddly amount of food for the whole family for a week. And people were hungry, just genuinely hungry. So growing up as a kid in America, I wasn't allowed to say I'm hungry. My mom would shut that down and be like, it would just trigger something in her, and she would get angry and say, "You have no idea what that means. You are not hungry."
Yeah.
I mean, like, whoa, settle down,
Yeah.
But that right there, that was the part of the long-term ramifications of violence.
Yeah.
And even to this day, like I hear my own kids, they're like, "Dad, I'm starving. Give me some food." And it triggers something in me. Like I remember how serious my mom got, like just deadly serious. Like, "You are not hungry. You don't know what that means." And like scary, man. It scared the crap out of me when she said that. And I remember that when my kids say they're starving, I'm like, "No, you're not. Let's go watch a documentary about the Holocaust now, so you understand what starving means." And they're like, "What? Come on, can't we? It's just an expression, Dad. Why do we always have to learn history?"
Well, you gotta learn somehow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
violence is a complex issue, man. It is.
Yeah, for sure. So just one quick one. I feel like we've been going for about an hour now, so I don't want to take it too long, but I feel like listeners have kind of a limit. But one last question, and I think maybe you've talked about this before, and me and Mike made a video about this, but like I just want to talk to someone else about this so I feel less crazy. And I'm actually gonna I'm gonna ask this question, I think, to everybody. And actually I have one upcoming guest, hopefully, that I'm definitely gonna have fun talking about this. The question it's an internet, classic internet martial arts question. I'm 100%. I know what your answer is going to be. Mm-hmm. Who would win in a fight? I'm going to pose it the same way as I posed it to Mike. One person is like 230 pounds, trains, martial arts, live resistance martial arts, regularly. The other person is like 130 pounds and is a traditional martial artist. So going on that, which of these people would win in a fight?
Okay, so we've got like 100-pound difference, like a 230-pound guy. What were the big guy's credentials again? What's his background?
Grappling, striking, live resistance arts, regular training with high level professionals. The other person, a traditional martial artist. Also, both these people are film people. They're both actors as well. The second person is also a film person, but more of a traditional martial artist. Not a whole lot of live training footage of this person.
And you said he weighs 130 pounds? Okay, so we got like a big, like heavyweight, light heavyweight, combat sports dude, and a traditional martial artist who weighs 130 pounds less.
Correct.
Okay. If that's all I have to go with, I'm going with the big combat sports athlete.
So that person is
seems like a pretty.
That person is Michael Jai White.
Okay.
And the second person, I think you know where this is going, is Bruce Lee. Now we asked the question because I'm sure you've seen, Michael Jai White's clips of, people talk about it all the time. Like he says, like, I would totally, win against Bruce Lee.
But it is the truth.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And it made the internet very angry.
Yeah, and everybody got mad about it.
He offended the Church of Jeet Kune Do and was excommunicated immediately. I understand that. I've also been excommunicated from the Church of Jeet Kune Do. It's
I'm working on it.
It's an unforgiving religion.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's funny. I had a back and forth in the YouTube comments about Khabib with this fellow who said, Khabib I can never pronounce his last name, the former UFC champion. Anyway, everyone who is familiar with the UFC knows who Khabib is. Anyway, undefeated in the UFC, right?
Right.
And this guy said Khabib had never been punched in his entire career. And I said, that's objectively untrue. I looked up the UFC stats and gave him the numbers of how many strikes he had taken in each fight. No, he wasn't stopped in any of his fights. He won all of his fights. He had an outstanding career, enviable skill set, but he's clearly taken punches in his fights. And I gave him the stats, and the guy said, no, they never touched him. They never touched him. And he wrote this big long post, which reminded me so much of the Bruce Lee worship, where people are like, Bruce Lee was untouchable. Nobody could beat him in a fight. And he's putting Khabib up on this pedestal. I'm like, you can watch the fights. You can see the moments where he takes hits. Like, that's what a fight is.
Yeah.
It's not doing Khabib a favor or yourself a favor or anyone else a favor by trying to turn this guy into a demigod by saying he's untouchable. Look, the average number of strikes thrown in a UFC fight, in a 3-round fight, is about 130 strikes when we average out all weight classes. It's a little higher in the teeny tiny women's divisions and a little bit lower in the heavyweight divisions, but that's the average number of strikes thrown. The average number of strikes landed per fighter is 70. So in an average 3-round fight, a UFC fighter is going to be taking 70 strikes. As far as significant strikes, those are strikes where the judges see has a visible effect, like knocks the guy down, moves the guy,
Right.
hurts the guy to some alarming degree where it's noticeable from the outside.
Right.
We're talking like about 30 or 40 of those.
Right.
Okay. And most of those are to the head. Right. So let's go on the most conservative number and say in one fight, you're taking 30 significant strikes that are moving you, damaging you, etc.
Yeah.
If we are pretending this doesn't happen and telling young men and young women who are considering, hey, I want to be a pro fighter, this doesn't happen, we're doing a huge disservice to them.
Yeah.
Like this is dangerous. The long-term ramifications of violence are huge, and they're generational, as we discussed before.
Yeah.
I put up a picture on my YouTube community section of my face all bruised up after a fight, and I asked people, what do you think? Did I win this fight or lose this fight? And a lot of people are like, I think you won because you have a smile on your face. I think you lost because you have visible damage on your face. You have a black eye. And there seemed to be about 50-50. Spoiler alert, I won that fight.
Yeah.
And I took far fewer than the average number of strikes. It was a 3-round decision fight, where the average number of significant strikes landed is at least 30. The average number of strikes landed is 70. I took a grand total of 14 strikes in that fight.
Okay.
Which that's winning by a significant margin.
Yeah.
Okay. But the damage on the face, the black eye, the scuffs on the forehead, the little mark on the neck, and so on. People who've never fought before, people who don't understand violence, see that and they think, well, that's clearly a loss. But anyway, so going back to the Bruce Lee thing, it does nobody any favors by saying people are untouchable. Even the best guys take damage, and lots of it over their career. It's cumulative, and it has long-term and generational effects.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so that's an interesting question. When you describe Bruce Lee and you describe Michael Jai White without giving their names. And if you said that to, even a Bruce Lee worshiper, well, maybe not a Bruce Lee worshiper, but some of them, they would say, well, yeah, the big guy would probably win.
They might see it
coming. It's Bruce Lee. In which case they'll be like, oh, no, well, we're making an exception here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they could definitely, as soon as they heard the names, they would spin it around. But I feel like they would see it coming, though. As soon as you described the 130-pound person, they'd be like, is this Bruce? Are you trying to trick me?
Yeah, man. It also upsets me when you speak of Bruce Lee as a man rather than a myth.
Yeah.
That it makes people angry.
Yeah.
And it makes people angry when you do the opposite. When, like, I feel it's disrespectful to the memory of Bruce Lee to remember him as a myth rather than the man he was.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite interviews, it's the same interview where he said, "Be like water, my friend." You know, that famous quote where he said he wanted to be remembered as a good actor rather than a star. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, look, like the idea of a star, like this big Hollywood icon, that's fake. It's not real. I want to be remembered as something real. I want to be remembered as, hey, that guy was a good actor. That guy was a good martial artist, rather than this guy was a god. This guy was an icon.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes to me about Bruce Lee's character.
Yeah.
And so to respect the man, I try to respect his wishes as far as he presented them in that interview anyway.
Yeah.
He was mortal, he was fallible, he made mistakes, he was beatable on any given day like everybody else is under the right circumstances. But man, he did some good work while he was here. He
sure did. Oh man, well I think that should about wrap her up there. That was a great. Hopefully you had a good time. I had a great time. I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, thanks for the invite, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully we can do it again sometime. And yeah, if you want to play some Turtles, man, we can always get down on that. You have my email and stuff. But are you playing on Switch, or I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah, Switch is. I'm going to go ahead and say my favorite system currently. I mean, it's. What more could you ask for? You know, like all the free.
Yeah, man, it's a.
Yeah,
it's the first Nintendo console I've owned since the Super Nintendo, man. Back in the day, because I don't know, I was a little reluctant. I actually bought it for my daughter, but man, we have a lot of fun playing with it because, like the other consoles, you know, they are technically superior in so many ways, but just as far as being fun to play, the Nintendo Switch gets so much right. One of those things is you know, the old school co-op play that is available in so many of the games and is lacking in all of these other high-tech titles. And it's like, you just want to sit on the couch with a friend or with your family, pick up 2 controllers or 3 controllers or 4 and play together. What's wrong with that? When did that go out of style, man?
Yeah. I fully agree with you, man. Like that's what Nintendo always. I feel like they always nail that aspect of it. They it's an experience. You know, it's like you want to. I think everybody has like some kind of memory of like some Nintendo system where it's like someone was like, "Hey, you want to play this over here?" And you're like, "Okay." And then like you come over, you play Mario Kart or Mario Party or Smash Brothers or something like that. It's like, yeah, these are all like we're in the room together playing a game, and that's why it's fun. And I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So perhaps we can not be in the same room, but. Still interact and play a game.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, thanks again for being here. Is there anything you want to plug while we're signing everything out here?
Well, go check out my YouTube channel, Ramsey Dewey on YouTube. I've got an Instagram account, also Ramsey Dewey. I don't remember if there's an underscore or capital letters or whatever, but I'm sure if you search me, I'm there. And yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to get out there and train.
Thanks, dude. Really appreciate you. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Do the liking, the subscribing, all that kind of stuff. And see you next time. All right.
Just really quick though.
Yeah.
Before we start.
Yeah.
So I've always known you as the Radical Trivia guy. Your name is Jared, is that right?
Yeah, Jared. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First name basis.
Sorry. So I just I figured the email. Sorry, Ramsey. It's nice to meet you. I'm Jared.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. I feel like that happens to me too. Like people who like watch a thing that. I don't know if it happens to you, but like people watch a thing that you do, and then they just kind of like start talking to you as if they know you already, and you're like, "What's your name again?"
Yeah.